like to call the July 27th City Council meeting to order. Because of COVID-19 restrictions, our meeting will be held via Zoom. I guess that's pretty obvious. Public comments for this meeting were accepted in advance by mail or email. These comments will be read into the public record shortly. If you'd like to submit a public comment at our next meeting, please visit www.merriam.org and follow the directions listed there. As a reminder to the City Council, please be conscientious of others trying to speak slowly and clearly, and state your name prior to speaking. If you need to confirm something that may have been difficult to hear, I will ask for clarification. The format for the council consideration on items tonight will be staff presentation, and I will open time for council questions. Please hold questions till the end of the staff presentation. If you have a question, when I ask for them, please physically raise your hand so that I or Meredith can see you do so on video. Let's see. Bob has joined us. Welcome, Bob.
Thank you, Mayor.
Madam Clerk, I'll just go ahead and ask you to please call the roll at this time.
Mayor Sissom.
Here.
Councilmember DeBold.
Here.
Councilmember Hands.
Here.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Here.
Councilmember Knapp.
Here.
Councilmember Neal. Councilmember Neal, you're muted. Okay.
Yeah, he is on. He's on here.
Okay. Councilmember Pape.
Here.
Councilmember Silvers.
Here.
Yeah.
Okay. Gotta love Zoom. Consent agenda. There's only one item on the consent agenda this evening, and that's consider approval of minutes of the City Council meeting that was held on July the 13th. And as such, I will accept a motion and a second for its approval. Someone was just make a motion.
I'll make
Bob?
a motion.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, Mayor, that we accept consent item number 1.
And Jason, you want to second that?
I'll second that.
All right. Motion made and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember DeBold.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Knapp.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal. Councilmember Pape.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 8-0.
Very good. Next item on the agenda is the mayor's report. Have a couple of awards to give out for the 2019 Volunteers of the Year. And I'll go ahead and read them. I don't know if Anna, you want to fill in before or after, or who might talk a little bit about this award. Can we just?
I'll go ahead and add that I can see that Debbie and Tom are on the call tonight.
Okay, great. Well, the first award goes to Tom and Debbie Long, and they have lived in the Quail Creek area of Merriam since 1911. They chose Merriam for their home because of the city's clean and well-maintained neighborhoods and its responsive city government. Tom has a degree in photojournalism and several years' experience as a newspaper photographer, and he and Debbie enjoy taking pictures for Merriam's Park and Recreation Department. Tom now works for a children's health non-profit organization, and Debbie works for another local city government. I have a quote from them, one of them, I presume. "We know how important volunteers can be to the community, and we love supporting the city of Merriam." So the first award goes to Tom and Debbie Long. Yeah. Very good.
Oh, yeah, all right, yeah. Oh. Okay.
And again, thank you very much for all the things that you do, Tom and
Yes.
Debbie. Obviously, this is what makes small cities thrive. We don't have the staff to do all the things that we'd like. In many cases, those things are done by volunteers as they fill in for us. So thank you very much. The second award goes to this will be the 2019 Youth Volunteer of the Year. And it goes to Greta Berg. Greta has been volunteering with the Merriam Parks and Recreation Department for 6 years. She graduated from Shawnee Mission North in 2020, where she was involved in varsity marching band, varsity swimming, and was the president of the National Honor Society, a student volunteer organization. In the fall, she will be attending Kansas State University to study horticulture and environmental science. And her quote was, "Volunteering has been very important to me because it allows me to get back to my community, which I love so much." It's heartwarming to hear those kinds of things coming from a young person. And I can tell from your past, what you've done, and your quote that you've got many great things ahead of you in your life. And we're going to be looking forward to reading about you. So congratulations, Greta Berg, for the award of Youth Volunteer of the Year. Okay, let's move down to finance and administration. Again, just as a reminder, the staff will be making a presentation regarding items. Council will be asked to hold questions till the end of the presentation, and then we'll get through the council questions and answer them one at a time. And so be patient. If I don't pick you off right away to ask your questions, because I'm probably not looking at your screen. So we'll get to you. Make sure speak up if we don't. The first item is consider approval of a bid from Denton Excavating for the demolition of 5701 Marion Drive. Brian, would you please provide the staff update on this item?
Evening, Mayor, council members. Brian Dyer, Community Development Director. Following your all study session on May 18th, staff issued a request for bids for demolition of 5701. The demolition bid request for bid had some bid alternates in there. We put bid alternates in there for 40, 60, and 80 cubic yards of exterior stone. That's to retain the exterior stone of the older part of the building, as well as adding on a bid alternate for cleaning that stone, essentially removing the mortar from that stone. Also within that request for bids were a bid alternate for keeping the mosaics. If you're familiar with the building on the west side, there are 2 mosaics over there. So we had a bid alternate in for those as well. We conducted 2 walkthroughs with interested bidders. Both walkthroughs went very well. Parks and Rec Director Anna Slocum, as well as Public Works Director Jim McDonald, and our building official Tony Assen helped with those walkthroughs. Again, went very well. We were very pleased with the whole bid process. As a result, we received 9 valid bids. Again, more than what we were expecting, and we're thankful for those large numbers. So we think we had good bids in for this. And on July 7th, we opened up those bids. The lowest bid was Denton Excavating, doing business as Midland Wrecking. Some of you may be familiar with Denton Excavating. They're owned by a gentleman who lives in Merriam, Wiley Denton. So they are a local business. So again, positive for it, as well as they have done a couple of different projects for the city of Merriam. They did the demolition for Dutch Made Inn, as well as the demolition of 6120 Slater Street. Both those projects went very well. So we were, again, from staff's perspective, we were very pleased with the results, and we working with them went very well. And additionally, Denton Excavating have indicated that they plan to use the same asbestos remediation company that did the Dutch Made Inn for this project as well. So folks, all the people that are going to be involved with it have experience in working in the city of Merriam. Staff does recommend, as part of accepting a bid, to accept bid alternates 22A and 22B. That is for the removal. They're keeping a 40 cubic yards exterior stone, as well as the removal of the mortar from the stone. Just a little bit more about that. The company will do the work, set the stones aside, and then Public Works will remove the stones, take them to Public Works facility and store the stones. Staff thinks 40 cubic yards is a nice number, good number for us to be able to use those stones in the future for some sort of veneer or something like that for another building to honor and show that we folks can remember 5701. And also that number doesn't overtax Public Works' ability to store stuff. And while they have space, they have limited space. So we think 40 cubic yards is a good number for that. And then we also recommend accepting bid alternate 22G, but in half. That's the alternate for the mosaics. As I mentioned, there are 2 mosaics. Denton Excavating had bid $15,000 for that. They did say that if we only wanted to keep 1 mosaic, they'd do it for $7,500, so half the bid. So that's what we are recommending to do. Again, that mosaics are quite large. They are pretty big, so keeping to them again will be a taxing thing on the storage of it, and then again, don't know exactly how we repurpose those 2 very large ones in the future. So with that, the final bid from Denton Excavating was $100,475. Again, staff recommends accepting this bid and authorizing the mayor to sign the contract. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Mr. Silvers, you're first.
This is Jason Silvers. I was just curious if there is a contingency cap in case the asbestos mitigation or anything else ends up being more extensive than originally thought.
No, there's no contingencies. This is a 1-price bid. They've been given all the information on the asbestos, so there is no contingencies. Now, with that being said, someone with the Dutch Maid, I'll just give you an example. The Dutch Maid, they found a large subterranean tank that they found over there. So we did do a change in bid for that. But again, so we're not anticipating, unless there's some unknown, unforeseen thing out there, we're expecting it to be 1 price for $100,000.
Thank you.
Anyone else have a question?
Mayor, if I could
Yes.
jump in for 1 second, I just want to let everybody know that David has joined over the phone now. And just the way that Zoom webinars work, I can't bring him in as a panelist from just a phone call. So I am just going to monitor if he has questions, but he is on the call.
And can we hear his questions on the phone? Or is he?
Yep, I'll be able to allow him to talk. And he does have questions, so I'm going to allow him to talk right now.
Okay, David,
Okay.
when you go on, the floor is yours.
David, you should be able to talk now.
Yes, can you hear me?
We can,
Yep.
yes.
Okay. Yeah, I just wanted to make sure, first of all, that I could, be heard and because I've been having some issues with Zoom for some reason with my connection. So, but I don't have any specific questions about the bid. I do have a point of order question about the process here that when we voted to put the bid together or to put the bid request out, the purpose was to find out what it would cost to possibly to do this. And we as far as I'm aware, we have not made a formal decision or vote as a body representing the residents about the disposition of the building. In other words, we haven't voted to demolish or to keep the building. And I believe that that's probably something that we should have a separate vote on, because it's a city asset, which the county at least believes is worth, more than $2 million. And so a decision on what to do should be independent of a decision on who, should we decide to demolish the facility, who does it, which is what seems to be before us tonight. Am I thinking this wrong, or am I correct, or am I thinking?
Mr. Engel?
Sure. No, I think this is it's probably a blend of the two. Really, this is the opportunity for the council to make that call. This is the information that's needed to know if it needs to come down, as opposed to re-engage in conversation with the bid and put that into start the process over. If council's not interested in tearing the building down, tonight would be the appropriate time to say no, or if they are interested in tearing the building down and accepting the Denton bid, then this would be the time to vote yes. I don't really see it as being a separate conversation, but we certainly
Yeah,
can.
I'm just saying that I think given the proposed motion is just simply to accept the bid, and I think that at some point there needed to be a specific declaration that it was the intent of the governing body to remove the building. That's just sort of my thinking there. So you know.
I would tell you from a staff perspective, we can certainly have multiple decision trees that we can explore if that's the will of the council. Staff is of the opinion, Chris is of the opinion that a vote tonight to accept this bid means that we are going forward to tear the building down. That is the motion that the council is making. That is the approach. That is my belief. So to accept the bid tonight, we would need to be told that we would like to accept the bid, but we don't want the work done, which would be a little bit irregular, but we could work with Denton to accept the bid and tell them we'll come back around somewhere down the road. The bid is good for 90 days. It's staff's belief that this is well within the budget. This is actually lower than we thought it would be. Staff is of the opinion that it is the will of the majority of the council to move forward with this, and that is why it has been presented in such a manner.
Right. All I was saying was that it just, and I guess I was looking for some guidance from the city attorney that making a decision on the disposition of an asset probably should require a formal vote on that disposition goal, and rather than just sort of accepting a bid without actually explicitly saying this is what we're going to do. I just think there should be two motions and two votes. That's just that's what I was getting at.
I don't want to speak for the city attorney, but if we want to make two motions, we absolutely could. If anyone who wants to, I guess, make a motion to remove the building. Give me a second to think about that, to write something down.
Brian's on the call.
Yeah. So, there's no, you're saying disposition of a city asset. I mean, there are some restrictions that some municipalities are constrained by if they're going to dispose in way of the sale of an asset, of a public asset, in terms of real estate or personal property. By personal property, I mean like usually machinery and equipment. That would not apply to what we're talking about here, which is in essence demolition of improvements on real property. So there's no, and usually if you go to those statutes that talk about disposition, meaning sale, not demolition or re-improvement, they call out a specific RFP process if the disposition is above a certain dollar limit. That would not apply to this situation. So that said, if it's my understanding that this agenda item is the acceptance of the bid for the work, I don't know that requires that, and then the decision to move forward with the work requires separate action. I mean, it kind of seems like the same action. If you are authorizing the contract, then you are also authorizing the scope of the contract, which would include the demolition work as contemplated by the contract. Chris, do I understand that right?
No, you are correct. That's where we're at. That's where staff is at.
Let me interject here briefly. And I think Mr. Neal has a point. There's certainly no reason why we can't do what he's suggesting. And as I left it last, I think there was a last hope for some that maybe we could discuss something other than demolition to include the potential of leaving a portion of it in place, leaving part of the foundation in place. We talked about what would be the cost of doing that, and we were going to go out to bid and get the bid to see how much the bid was going to be and make sure we could afford it. We certainly have gotten good bid figures, and that's not going to be an issue. So I think rather than talk about whether this is appropriate or not, let's just go ahead and have a discussion about the alternative to complete demolition of the building. And I'd like to, if everybody's okay with that, Mr. Neal, would you like to start that conversation?
Well, certainly I wasn't trying to derail things. I was just trying to make sure that we were, crossing all the I's and dotting all the T's, because my vote would be potentially different if they were separate votes, and would be this, rather than just the one vote.
Right.
So that was the reason for my question.
Right, and I think that's a good plan because you're right. I can understand your point completely. Let me start off, and I made this statement once before, and again, I don't know that we need to spend a lot of time on this because we have had quite a bit of conversation. I believe, from the historical perspective of this entire process of building a new community center, I believe that the public was given information that the community center, where it's at currently, was in such a bad condition that it could not be reasonably remodeled, added on to. So we decided to replace it and move it to another location. And I think that when we took it to the voters, although we never made this point specifically, I think most people would probably tend to believe that since we built a new center in a different location, that we're going to get rid of the old center. That's why we decided to move and relocate. So if we do anything besides that, this is my opinion, then I believe we're doing something that we really hadn't talked to the voters about, because I think they believed that this property was going to be torn down because, again, if it's such a horrible shape that we couldn't remodel it and build onto it there, why would we want to do anything with it? So I personally don't support anything done to that building other than demolish it. Certainly, we now have the bids in place, and I think we can support that. That's my personal opinion. I may not even get a vote on it. Mr. Caldwell, do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, I guess a question to my fellow council members. We've discussed this at the last number of council meetings, so we've been pretty open. Has anybody received any feedback from constituents about doing anything other than demolish the building? I have not.
I haven't.
Mayor, I do have one public comment regarding the French Center. So whenever we're at that point, we will want.
Yeah. All right. Hold on to that. I think I saw Bob with your hand up.
Yeah, Mayor, thanks, Bob Pape. I just had received one comment from one of the constituents in Ward 4 in reference to just trying to save a portion of the building as it is, maybe a wall or something, not necessarily saving of the building, but at least trying to keep a portion of that intact. So I just throw that. That's the only comment I've heard from anybody in my ward.
Actually, I amend my comment. I received that same email. So I've received one.
Okay.
I have,
Anybody?
this is David. Yeah, I've heard a couple of comments, but again, I don't think many people realize that that's what we're doing tonight. So, but that's sort of par for the course right now, because I think people's attention's focused on a lot of other things that are going on in the world, and maybe not so much on what we're doing here. So it's not surprising to me that there hasn't been a lot of comment about it. I haven't gone out and asked anybody since, I can't really go out and knock on doors. So.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Shadrich, did you have a comment?
I was just answering the question. I heard a lot about it when I was campaigning last summer, when I was knocking on doors, mostly just the sentiment behind it and then trying to save as much as we can because of its historical context. But everyone that I did talk to, at least that I remember, was had a positive response to preserving and reusing materials in something that would be part of Miriam's future wherever we decide to use them. So we have to make tough decisions, regardless of what's happening right now in the world. So that was the last time I truly heard anything.
Right, and I think just again to refresh our memories, we actually acted upon that, and we got a bid on what it was going to cost us to remodel the oldest portion and get it to the point where it was habitable. And I think we were talking about close to $4 million to do a building and bring it up to a position that can be occupied without a use. And I don't think anybody would be able to sell that to a constituent that it's worth spending $4 million that we haven't earmarked, which could potentially even increase taxes to do that. That's kind of where we're at. I mean, it's not really a matter, even if you really wanted to do it, because for sentimental reasons or historical reasons or preservation reasons, it's the fact that it's going to cost so much money and we don't have a need for it. We don't have a use for it. It would make no sense for us to do that. And that's kind of why we're here. I think if anybody who's been following our meetings, and I know that 97, maybe 98, 99% of our voters have not, they would recognize that we've been talking about this for a while and this isn't new. But we are kind of getting to the last phase. I think if we move forward on this bid, that's a contract, and we're telling Mr. Denton that we're going to pay him $100,000+ to tear down that building. So we better be really sure that that's what we want to do. Does that make sense? Ms. Shedrick, you had your hand up.
I do have one more comment just to follow up. So I know we've been talking about the mosaics as well. And I did sound an alarm on Twitter and ask for some help from some of the architectural history folks that I know and art history friends, and then the Spencer Museum at KU is helping me out, trying to find if those designs have any historical context or importance for the reason that they would have been on the building. And nothing much has come up so far other than we're pretty sure it's a Depression era quilt square, but we haven't figured out anything else other than that. So if there are developments that come forward, I'll bring them to you and Chris and everybody, but I know I said I would follow up on that, and I did. Thanks, Twitter. And thanks to the Nelson and Spencer Art Library for responding to me.
Any other comments?
This is Dave.
Yeah, Dave.
I would, essentially, I know we've talked about this in work sessions and whatnot in the past. I'm just going to say, I feel that it's sort of premature to make that decision to demolish the facility right now. It's a step you can't go back. And I just don't think that, as I've said before, all the options are fully considered, including the potential of selling the property. I recognize that there's, I'm probably alone in that thought amongst the council members, but I don't believe that it would be worth I do believe that it might be worthwhile to keep the utilities on for a number of months or a few months until we have a better idea of the direction of our revenue stream. And I don't think we needed to rush into a step that is not possible to reverse. I recognize that that's probably a minority opinion. I just think that we should vote on it and make sure that we are crossing all our I's and dotting our I's and crossing the T's in terms of the process here, so that when and if someone comes back and looks and sees that that we actually did explicitly make the decision to remove the building, and that it's in here, but I think we should vote on it.
Okay. Mr. Pape?
Yeah, Mayor, I understand where Councilman Neal's coming from, and I'm not opposed to having two separate votes this evening. And would it be appropriate for me to make a motion and to actually have the building demolished?
Yeah, it would be appropriate, I believe.
We have a public comment at some point in time before we make
All
a
right.
motion, please.
Okay.
That's true. Let's get to the public comment.
Sure.
But thank you for reminding me.
Thank you.
Ready for the public comment now?
Yeah.
Okay. This is from Billy Crone, 6633 Wed Street. What to do with the Irene B. French Center? This has been a long and well-considered discussion. As a member of the committee tasked with making a recommendation on the matter, I want to thank you for listening to the community. I've offered my ideas, and I'm grateful to have heard even better ones from the community at large as part of the 5701 Steering Committee. Not only did we form a recommendation, we inspired awareness, participation, and discussion in the community, and I am proud of that. I am confident that all 9 of you have followed these ideas and discussion as well as I have, probably more so. You've listened to the desires of your constituents, your neighbors, and community, and to facts from experts. I am ready for you, our elected representatives, to decide tonight the future of the Irene B. French building and the site upon which it has rested for over 100 years. You have my full support. I am looking forward to moving forward in whatever direction you, as our elected representatives, decide that shall be. Thank you, Billy Crone.
Very good. Mr. Pape, you want to try that motion?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. This is Bob. I would make the motion that the City of Merriam go forward with the demolition of the Irene B. French Community Center. I'll just make it short. That's it.
We have a motion. Second, Mr. Hands.
I'll second that.
Motion made and second. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Hand.
Aye.
Councilmember Clark.
Aye.
Councilmember Knapp.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
No.
Councilmember Pape.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVold.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-1.
Very good. Before we go to this next, or actually the original item, I think it's interesting. I might want to point out a little history. Mr. Denton, I don't know this for a fact. I'm reasonably certain that Mr. Denton actually was born and raised in a house that sits directly under where the Merriam Community Center, the new center, has been built. He is a long-term Merriam resident. Again, I don't know where he lives today. He may not be in Merriam, but he has a business here and has worked in Merriam for many, many, many years. So it's kind of ironic that he's involved in this particular venture. I mean, he's done good work for us. There's certainly no reason why he shouldn't. But he is, he knows very, very much about the city of Merriman, what he does, and what he's been doing to help us. So we have a motion, or we don't have a motion, but we do have an option to accept his bid. Mr. Engel, would you like to, or Mr. Dyer, would you like to talk about the bid in terms of where it's at with the other bids a little bit? I know we've already talked about the amount.
It is the low bid, and again, suggesting take the option to do the 40 cubic yards of exterior stone, as well as saving one of the mosaics. And Mr. Denton is a Merriam resident.
Oh, Mr. Caldwell, I think you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'd recommend that we take a 2-week pause on this and give the public one more chance. Now that we've made our intention known in the public record with a motion that's passed, and there can be no doubt that we are intending to tear it down. Our bid's good for 90 days. Can we revisit this in 2 weeks and pass and vote on it? Just in case Twitter explodes with us, save the community center.
It might be a little late since we just voted to demolish it. But
I'll let you know. Twitter goes up.
That's what I mean. We've made the point that our intention is to demolish it.
So why wait?
So, well, why not wait? If there is just a grassroots effort out there, I don't think there is. And I ran on the platform that we tear it down and plant grass. So it's my intention to tear it down. But we can wait 2 weeks. It won't hurt us anything. And if there's people out there that think that we need to do something else, they need to speak up.
Mr. Engel?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, we could wait the 2 minutes. We could also, we could approve it this evening and just not put out the notice. So, I mean, it would have more heft if the bid was approved, and we just not give a notice to proceed until the next meeting, if we want to do it all tonight. But we absolutely can wait until the next meeting. That's up to the council to decide.
And I would also add that it's going to take probably 4 weeks for us to get the utilities disconnected. It's a long process to get the utilities disconnected in place. Particularly, there's a KCP&L transformer sitting on there. That piece has got to go before anything happens. So it will take us probably 4 weeks just to get the disconnects done.
I only have one problem. This is the mayor. I only have one problem with this idea. I don't have a problem with the concept of it. I think I have more the problem of the optics of it. If we've just taken a vote to demolish it, that's pretty clear. I mean, it's gonna go away. We just made it sure. So, saying that we would like to hear from a grassroots effort, or a group of people, or anyone who's interested in us doing something other than what we just voted on, seems a little bit late to me. It's almost like a false hope that we're putting in there that we're going to do something other than demolish that building, which we're not. We are not talking about, and make sure there's no confusion, because we are not talking about tonight what we are going to do on that site other than remove the building. And so that's another long and interesting debate on what should go there after it's gone. And I would think that's where we should ask our citizens, because we have heard comments about ideas that we want to put in there, and some people like them, some people don't. And the other thing that's nice about that is that could literally take us years to figure out, because we've talked about it recently there with COVID and everything else, the financial situation that cities find themselves in. There's no need for us to hurry. We also talked about the fact that there was kind of a need for us to decide what we're going to do with this building because, vandalism and other issues. So, I mean, I don't want to muddy up the situation by saying, let's wait so we can find out, give people an opportunity to call up and tell us what they wish we should have done, because we've already done what we're going to do, and the building's going to go away. It doesn't have to go away in 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 6 months, but just remember that we get into wintertime, that building still sit there. It's going to start costing the city money to keep it sitting there. And that's why we're trying to put this thing behind us in a reasonable time. Ms. Yadrich, you have your hand up.
Did. I would like to weigh in and say, Bruce, I understand the request, and I think I'm on the fence about that because I always want to give people more time to weigh in as well. But I think there's a flavor of hypocrisy in taking this vote, passing the acceptance of the bid, and then including a grant for people in that area to make exterior improvements. And we would be waiting and pausing on this one thing that could potentially become an eyesore if we did not move forward with doing something with it. And so my heart is with you on that, but my head is also saying we want a new future for this part of the city. And having it be in my ward especially, I really want a new future for it, and I want it to be the right future. And the longer we wait, it's just it's difficult to start moving forward with that.
Okay. Anyone else? Well, we'll find out how it's going to go if somebody wants to make a motion. Mr. Pape?
Yeah, Mayor, this is Bob. It's kind of with sadness that I make this motion because I at the very beginning, I was hoping there was a way that we could have saved this building. I think after everything's been said and done, and we've heard from at least a large number in the community itself, but at a $4 million price tag, there's just no way that I can go down the road of trying to save that building. So I would move that the council accept a bid of $100,475, which includes bid alternates 22A, 22B, and 22G from Din Excavating for the demolition of 5701 Merriam Drive, and authorize the mayor to sign the contract upon final approval from the city attorney.
And I'll take Mr. DeBold.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second, Madam Clerk.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Councilmember Knapp.
Aye.
Councilmember Neal.
I would like to explain my vote, but I'm going to go ahead and vote aye, given the fact that the decision has been made to demolish the building, which I am at this time opposed to. I would like to have seen some other options considered in a more outreach of a way. But anyway, since the decision has been made, I think this bid is acceptable, and I vote aye on that basis.
Councilmember Pape.
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers.
Aye.
Councilmember Yadrich.
Aye.
Aye.
Councilmember Hands.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Very good. All right. Let's move to the next item. Item number 2, which is the consideration of approval of an agreement with Optum Healthcare Solutions Fitness Passport Program. Anna Slocum.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Before you this evening is another agreement similar to what we've already signed with a healthcare solutions that would allow for seniors that have this benefit as part of their Medicare package to receive free access to the Miriam Community Center, which would then be reimbursed by their health provider. This particular agreement is through Optum, which is the United Healthcare plan. It reimburses at $3.20 per visit for a maximum of $32 per month per member. The reimbursement plan staff, it would all operate through our recreation software. So there would be no additional infrastructure or programming required. We already have that in place. And the setup would be very similar to what we're already doing for Silver Sneakers. So it would expand our opportunity for patron participation. We've had several people already inquire if we will be bringing this one on. And there's yet another program as well that people have inquired about that we are currently investigating. So what we're asking tonight is for City Council to authorize the mayor to sign the agreement with Optum Healthcare Solutions to allow senior citizens to access this Medicare benefit.
Well, that's good news. This is only going to help us bring more people in there. That's why we built it. I believe it's to get as many people to use it to benefit our community in the best way that we can. And to the degree that you had anything to do with this, I want to thank you and your staff. I know this Silver Sneakers and all these plans. You know, in some cases you got to go out and get them, and people are looking forward to it. And in most cases, due to financial reasons, this would be the only way they could afford to come here. So I'm glad we're making that available to them. Anybody got any questions or comments? Okay. Well, I'll entertain a motion in a second if needed. Yep. Bob?
Okay, I was going to defer to Jason Silvers if he wanted to make that motion, but
Jason, you want to make it?
One up too. I'm sorry, Mayor.
I'd love to, actually. I think this is a great idea. So I'd like to move that the council approve the agreement with Optum Healthcare Solutions and authorize the mayor to execute the contract.
I'll second that.
Motion's made and seconded. Madam Clerk?
Councilmember Knapp,
Aye.
Councilmember Neal,
Aye.
Councilmember Pape,
Aye.
Councilmember Silvers,
Aye.
Councilmember Yodrich.
Aye.
Councilmember DeVold,
Aye. And Anna, thank you to you and your staff for all your hard work with that. That's an opportunity for some people, and that's a great thing.
Councilmember Hands,
Aye, and I'm going to ditto what Scott just said. Thank you so much.
Councilmember Caldwell.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Very good. Everyone received the June financial report, and it was included in the packet. We don't necessarily have a report, it's my belief, but Donna is on the line, and if anyone does have a question, we certainly can take that up at this point and get an answer for you. Anyone care to ask a question about the financial report for June?
Mayor, I think Donna is going to share just a little bit from the finance report.
Very good. Donna, go right ahead.
Okay. As you said, it was in your packet. I sent out today a correction. There was one number that was wrong on there when it related to property tax, and the budget on that was is $4,384,000, not the $4,900,000, and so that puts us at about $250,000 under budget right now. We do still get a couple more disbursements, and so I have some hope that by the time the end of the year, that number will be diminished some. Just one other thing that I thought was quite positive, I can get over here to it, is that we received our sales tax numbers today, and this would have been for June sales. And overall, we were about 20% down. And as you may recall from the budget discussions, we had forecast an 80%. So that was quite a bit of a swing. And so that was very good news. That, that disbursement made about a $500,000 difference on our ending fund balance. So I thought that was very good news. And if there's any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Donna, those were May numbers, correct? Not June numbers?
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, that would be for May. And as you may recall, everything was kind of still shut down until around the 10th or 12th of May, and that's when everything opened back up. And so if it had been open the whole month, possibly it would have been even better news. So
Is it true that Bob Pape found that error?
yes, it is. Thank you, Council Member Pape.
Yeah.
He needs the finance star this week.
Yeah, just let me, I do read it once in a while. So
Yeah.
Is it true that Bob emailed you about that error? Not that he found.
That's not true. He talked to my boss about it, Chris Engel.
Well, it was inadvertent, so it doesn't matter. But it's a good catch.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank you for that.
Anything else?
No, sir.
Okay, any questions? If not, we'll move on. All right. Let's move to community development, public works, CIP. First item up is the 2009 codes and permit report. Brian Dyer, would you like to talk about that?
Yeah, good evening, Council. Brian Dyer, Community Development Director. You got a memo in your packets about code enforcement stats. Also had the information about building permits. I'm going to quickly run through those and then give you any answer any questions. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen, which will be for me. So let's see how this goes. So I hope everybody can see that all right.
Yes, we can. You may want to zoom in a little bit.
All righty. Well, I'm going to get beyond my skills at this moment. This is a map that you all got in your packets with the memo. This is a map that if we were in the council chambers would be much larger and easier to see. So I apologize for how small it is, but like I said, it's in your packet, so it should be a much larger map and easier to look at. A couple of things about this map. First of all, as you can see, we divided it up into 4 different areas. These areas correspond with the police department's statistical areas that they use for tracking crime statistics. We'll have more areas than just 4, but we consolidated them down into 4 areas. And again, it's most of the residential. You'll see the white area, that's the commercial area that we take out, because we're talking mostly about residential code violations. In general, our commercial businesses do a very good job on keeping up their buildings. There's a couple of them that we have to deal with, but overall, the vast majority of our commercial buildings do a very good job. So just seeing, except for one little area I'll talk about here in a second, we're going to talk mostly about residential statistics. So what this map here shows is the number of residential violations. The bigger dot means that address had more violations. A couple of things to note is that we send out letters and to folks who have violations. I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a second. Sometimes those letters have more than just one violation listed on them. So, somebody who has a large number of violations, say 8, may have gotten 2 or 3 letters that have two or three different violations listed on them. As you can see here, the area number 1 is the largest area spatially, the largest area population-wise. It's also the largest area, has the most housing units. So it stands to reason that they would also have the largest number of code violations. Down the bottom right-hand corner is a table. That table has total violations and also has addresses with violations. A little bit kind of as I talked about earlier, one address can have multiple violations. And we try to normalize this code enforcement statistics for all areas by essentially taking it and normalizing it by the number of dwelling units in there. So again, kind of give you a little bit different, a little bit better perspective as to how each area is doing code enforcement wise. The next map, again, same areas. These are just showing addresses that have multiple violation letters. Typically, this ends up being somebody in May gets a tall weeds and grass violation notice, and then a couple months later, perhaps has an inoperable vehicle in their parked, or maybe they parked in the grass or something like that. That typically is what results in a getting multiple letters for a violation. This is a couple of tables here. It's kind of interesting. The top table is for all properties. We didn't take out commercial properties, so all properties. Again, majority of that table is residential. And this kind of speaks a little bit to how we do code enforcement. As you can see, we have listed out, top is the year 2017, 2018, 2019, and then notice of violation letter, final notice of violation, and then the notice to appear. Whenever folks say they got a ticket from the city for code violations, that typically is not the case. What they probably got was simply a letter from codes informing them of the violation they had and informing them of what needs to be fixed and how long they have it. That is the notice of violation letter. For all our code violation cases, except for the tall weeds and grass, typical process is we observe a violation, we send a letter giving the owner or the resident some time to fix the violation. After that time has passed, code enforcement officer goes back by. If the violation is there, then they get the final notice of violation letter. That's the next letter. As you can see, in 2019, we sent out 558 of the first letters, and then almost half had to get a second letter. And then that second letter, again, tells what the violation is, and then gives them a time to get the violation fixed. And if they haven't fixed it by then they get the notice to appear. And that is the ticket. That is when they go to municipal court and see the judge. Typically, as you can see, we went from 558 letters we sent out to only 38 notices of violation. That's a larger number than what we've had in the past. We'll kind of keep an eye on that and kind of see what exactly is going on with that. I think the thing to note also here is we send out 558 letters with violations. All those violations get abated or they end up going to court. And they may pass over years. They may, we may send out a letter in December and we don't get it done until the following January of the next year. But we send out letters and we see that the violation is abated. So that's a little bit about the process. On tall weeds and grass, that is different as set out by state statutes. We send one letter, and that letter is the only notice of violation letter somebody receives for that year, that calendar year. So what does that mean? That means if we send a letter to somebody in May for tall weeds and grass, and perhaps they mow it or perhaps we abate it, and then come August they have tall weeds and grass again, we simply abate it. We have our contractor go out and mow the yard. We don't need to send any further notice. A little bit more about tall weeds and grass. If a lot of times on the multiple times folks offend, we do, if we know who it is, and we take them to court. Sometimes for those tall weeds and grass, we mow multiple times. A lot of times extenuating circumstances. Maybe perhaps someone's passed away and the property just hasn't passed on to other hands. And that's kind of typically why we end up perhaps mowing a yard multiple times. The last thing in this table is residential violations. As you can see, 2019, we had a little bit of dip in regards to how many violations we sent letters for in 2018. Again, still a little bit higher than what we had in 2017. This last table is the top 5 violations by area. I will go and just simply skip down to the last page, the very bottom table. Again, top 5 violations. Not surprising, tall weeds and grass is our #1 violation this year. Last year it wasn't, but this year's back to the top. What's interesting is after that 167, really falls off significantly down to 116 of outdoor storage of inoperable vehicles. Outdoor storage of inoperable vehicles is a vehicle with a flat tire, is a vehicle with an unexpired tag, a vehicle that has the engine pulled out and sitting next to it. It's exactly what it is. It's a vehicle that does not go anywhere. Just because the vehicle sits perhaps for a couple of weeks does not mean it's inoperable, provided, again, it's got licensed and it's got air in the tires and the engine's not sitting next to it or something like that. And then the third one was outdoor unauthorized storage of boats and trailers. That's perhaps someone who's parked it in front of their house for too long. And outdoor storage is exactly that, trash and debris. And then substandard exterior building conditions, that popped up to a higher thing for 2019 because we went a little bit, we're placing some emphasis on chipped and peeling paint. So that's what that is. That really doesn't mean that someone has a house that's falling in or something like that. It's simply that someone probably need to paint their house. And for the most part, folks did do abate that and paint their house. So overall, the housing stock still is very good out there in Marion. So With that, I'll be happy to answer questions before I go on to the building permit stuff. Not see anything, so.
This is Jason Silvers. I have a question.
Yeah, Jason.
Actually, I have two questions. One, if I stop mowing my lawn, you guys will come do it?
Yep, we will do it. We will charge you, and we will charge you an administration fee. If you do not pay it, it gets put on your tax roll.
Good to know. Okay. My actual question is, I noticed when I was looking at the map of violations that there are groupings of houses that seem to have violations like down a street or within a neighborhood. Can you tell me, are those owner occupied typically, or are those maybe rentals?
We really haven't tracked them by that. So they can be, they're probably both rentals and probably owner occupied. We will say kind of anecdotally from our experience, we do find that the rentals sometimes as they churn, i.e. new renters come in, they end up with code violations that we got to educate them about. Even though when we do rental inspections and licensing, we try very, very hard to get that information to the renter and the property owner of the things we expect out of them. But we still find, even after all that pushing out information and trying our best to reach out to them, still sometimes they just perhaps don't understand that they can't leave stuff piled up in front of their house for an extended period of time. So that's kind of been our experience with renters, is it's simply just the churning. We'll get a renter for 12 months, get them educated, and then a new renter comes in, we got to re-educate them. Even though, like I said, we try very, very hard to get the information in the hands of the renters of what we expect from them from codes.
Okay, and I actually, sorry, I have one more quick question. Do you know, have we had any issues with the multiple Airbnbs that are in our city with keeping up with codes?
I would first of all say there are not multiple Airbnbs. There are very, very few Airbnbs in the city of Marion. We kind of look on them every once in a while. They'll pop up and then they go away. To be quite frank, it's just, we just don't see them very much in Marion at all. Now, the few Airbnbs we do have that are truly Airbnbs, i.e. the owner does not live in there, they're simply renting out the houses. We try very hard, if we find out and are noticed on those, we do get them in our rental licensing program. So we have very good contacts for them. And again, finding that for the most part, they do keep their things up. But if need be, after a few conversations and letters, they figure it out. But again, I just want to emphasize, we do not have that many Airbnbs. It's not very many at all. I only can think of one or two off the top of my head of ones that are the owner doesn't live there.
Okay, I know of one in my ward, and I thought for some reason I was told that they were multiples.
Yeah.
But
Any other questions, Mr. Dyer, on this?
That's all I have for this one.
I have one.
Oh.
This is Chris Hands.
Yes.
Do we have any, I know you're going to go on and talk about other things, but do we have any feel for this year being very different than last year?
No, yes, it will be different. I can tell you that. And here's why it's going to be different. Because as the city recognizing COVID and the strains it placed on our residents and things like that, I'll be honest and frank, we, when this first hit, we kind of softened up a little bit. I don't know if that's quite the right word. We started giving folks more time. We also, City of Marion is known for being pretty code enforcement. We do like to enforce codes, which is great. So we backed off a little bit and gave folks a little bit more time. And it is going to be interesting to see how that plays into it. But really, as things have been going on, particularly on tall weeds and grass, we weren't giving extra time on those as we progress through here. Perhaps the one thing that we are giving a little bit extra time is, again, house painting, keeping houses painted and things like that. The big types of projects.
Very good. Mr. Page, do you have something?
No, Mayor.
Okay.
I was just thinking back to the Airbnb. We have one in our ward, so there isn't many.
All right.
This is
Well-
Jason Silvers. I have one more quick statement, I guess. When I interviewed in front of the council to fill the open seat for the Ward 1 vacant council seat, I mentioned that I was interested in more code enforcement, and I just want to publicly say that at that point I didn't realize that Miriam was as on top of code enforcement as they are, and so shame on me. But I do want to say that I appreciate that the city is backing down a little bit on some of the bigger price code violations like house painting, because in doing my canvassing, I ran into some people that were really having trouble scraping together the money to paint their houses. I know that's a big deal. So that's one of the things with throwing your hat in the ring and getting on city council is you become educated on a lot of stuff, and I have become educated.
Okay, why don't we close this out and move to a community development update. Brian, I think you have that as well. And we can move
I
on to that.
do, but I have a real short building permit report also as well, Mayor. Before I get into this, just back up a little bit, just want to refresh everybody's memory. These are statistics that we get from CitizenServe, which is our database service provider. So they're pretty robust statistics we've had over the last couple of years. So we've really been happy with it. So that is something that's been a big change and a big benefit to us, and that's how we're able to get these, like I said, we feel pretty solid statistics. So, and I'm gonna, as we go through this real quickly, I'll show you how it's also been a benefit as well. So this is 2019 building permit report. This is kind of interesting stuff here to show how the building permits and our building evaluations really don't correlate together at all. 2019, we issued 582 building permits, which is probably the largest number of building permits that has been issued in the city of Merriam. We really have good statistics from about 2003 going forward, but we're pretty confident that 582 is the most permits issued in the city. The building permit valuation was $52 million, and the building permit valuation is when someone comes in and pull a permit, they have to provide the valuation for the labor and the cost of the labor, as well as the cost of materials for the building. So essentially it's the cost to get the building up and out of the ground. This is again showing statistics from since 2003. First column is the year, next column is building permits issued. Third column is the building valuation for real dollars in that year. And then the last column is adjusted for inflation. That's adjusted to 2019 dollars. That's just so we can do a better comparison of the cost of the value, of the value of the building valuation. As I mentioned earlier, we did $52 million in 2019. That is kind of an average year. 50 million, again, when adjusted for inflation, is kind of an average year. The closest year to that was 2015, which was $50 million as well. The interesting part is, as you can see here, again, 582 permits. The next largest year for that was 474 permits. But that year's building valuation was only $12 million. So essentially it was $40 million less than this year. So, and this last chart really tells the story of how building permits and building valuations really have no correlation whatsoever. The blue line is a trend line showing the number of building permits we've issued over the year. The bar chart, the orange, is the building valuation in real dollars for that year. And then the gray is adjusted for inflation. So again, looking at the very far right, 2019, the bar chart shows us at 50 million. As you look across to the left, you can see, yeah, that's kind of about the typical type of year. But the interesting part is starting in 2004, that blue line continues to climb up, steadily climbs up. But yet the building valuation values are just all over the place. So really no correlation. I can say we do know why those building permits are going up, and why perhaps we have a high number of building permits with a low number of valuation. That usually is an indicator that folks are doing projects to upkeep their homes, doing roofs, doing decks, doing electrical panel swap outs. Again, just the typical maintenance stuff, which is a good sign. It shows people are putting money back in their homes and keeping them up, doing a lot of upkeep and doing things to keep the value in their homes. And then the other thing that's going on is, particularly from 2016 going forward, as I mentioned earlier, CitizenServe is what we use for database. And your code enforcement officers have pads that they take into the field. Those pads have cellular uplinks to the CitizenServe database. So live and in the field, they have the permit data. And how is that important? So they can, when they see a roof being put on, they can quickly check to see if the permit's been issued for it. If it hasn't, they can go up there and tell them to cease work until they get a building permit. So that's really one of the reasons why we've seen the increase in building permits. And that's really, again, a benefit to the residents, to the city, because pulling permits ensures that the work that's being done is being done by a Johnson County licensed contractor. So the work should, by someone who's trained and has experience and has insurance to do the work. And then on the roofs, the same thing, but also on the roofs is important because it also means that if they pull the permit, that the contractor is licensed with the state Attorney General's office, because we check that as well. So that's a couple of positive things about using CitizenServe and upgrading our technology. So with that, I'll be happy to answer your questions if folks have questions on building permits.
This is Chris Hands again. And I want to say it's been so exciting to see the upsurge in information available through CitizenServe. I am sure the learning curve and the backloading of all that data was not any fun, but wow, what a wonderful payoff. Thank you very much.
Sure, you're welcome. Yeah, we can thank our recently retired Mr. Hollis. He had a big part of doing a lot of that. Him and Nancy Yoakum, office up front of the office, they did a lot of work with that. So
Very good.
And
Any other
then,
questions?
yeah, I'll just quickly go into briefing on community development updates, real brief. The READ project, the building it does continue. They're making good progress on that. They continue to get inspections as needed, and they continue to move forward with that. Schweitzer Senior Villas, the project north of Edelweiss, going along great. They are having optimistic that they'll get a unit or a couple of units up and open in the next 30 to 60 days. So that's they're making great progress on that. And then the last thing I want to do is remind the council that August 5th, there is a joint City Council Planning Commission meeting on the Merriam Comprehensive Plan 2040. There's going to be an update from our consultants on the progress they made. We'll say, if you can be there, please do. The consultants have really done a fantastic job in being just very nimble and being very proactive and innovative in dealing with this COVID thing. Because like I say many times, when we started this comprehensive plan, nobody had any idea that something like this was going to happen. So please, if you get the time, do tune into that. I will mention a little bit more about that meeting. We will be having Planning Commission meeting at 6 o'clock, and it'll be via Zoom as well. And it's the exact same Zoom link. We just didn't want folks dropping out and having to come back in. So if you come in before 7 o'clock, you may come into the Planning Commission meeting. That's perfectly fine. Confluence is going to facilitate the meeting, both meetings. They've been generous enough to volunteer to facilitate the Planning Commission meeting. They've taken lessons from Meredith, who does a great job with ours. So again, it should be an exciting night, but if you just come in early before 7, you may drop in on the Planning Commission meeting, and don't go away. You can hang out, and we'll get to the Planning Commission meeting, rearrange, and then head right into the Confluence Comprehensive Plan part of it. That's all I have, so I'll be happy to answer questions.
Now's the time. Okay. All right, you're going to get off easy tonight. Bob, do you have something?
Well,
you feel obligated to ask a question?
I feel obligated just to ask, do we have any update on the old Kmart property?
Not this time. We don't have any specific updates. I know they are in constant contact with staff, and I think, again, I do know before all this started, they had some fantastic ideas for it, and some concepts and things they're working on, but obviously the pandemic has really shuffled the deck quite a bit. But so no, we don't have any specific updates on that.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that report. Those two reports, actually, Brian.
Welcome, Mayor.
Let's go ahead and move into staff items. Chris, you got any staff items for us this evening?
Sure, I'm just going to give you a brief one. That's to tell you that effective tomorrow morning until next Monday, I will be on my annual fishing trip, and my phone does not get reception. So Meredith is on the button for the next week. Let's keep it quiet for her, as we're apt to do is whenever we actually are in control of the situation. So if you need anything, please reach out to her. I will be checking in from time to time as I drive up the mountain to get reception and make sure that my wife knows I'm alive. And I will try to check in once or twice between now and next weekend, but I promise nothing. That being said, I'll answer any questions. If not, I'm going to pass it over to Meredith. She does have some updates on the community center, but I think Christine, you had a question perhaps for me?
No, I was going to ask about the community center because I thought you were signing off. So yay.
Yeah. So the community center construction continues to go well. We're making great progress on the indoor pool. If you've been over there in the last couple of days, we've got the landscaping installed, so it even looks pretty different than if you were there for the flag raising ceremony. And it just continues to get more and more polished as every day goes by. Of course, not having rain on a regular basis would be helpful still. Every time we try to lay sod or do something outside, we get a big rainstorm like yesterday and have to wait for some things to dry out. So yeah, it's still going well, and looking forward to getting some of these outstanding pieces that we're waiting on because of COVID into the building, like the art and some other pieces of furniture. So all of that's still headed our way. What I wanted to talk about tonight is what things look like with memberships and actually opening up aquatic programming as we move into the fall. And we're actually putting highlights out in the next couple of days. And so I wanted to give you all an update about the information that's going in there because it's a little different than what we've talked about in the past. So the outdoor pool likely will not open for the remainder of the summer season. That is just based on the Ad Astra reopening plan. If you saw the news today, it looks like Governor Kelly may be rolling us back to phase 2 next week. And so we're gonna have to take a look at what that actually means for us and how we operate recreation facilities. The indoor pool is on target to be completed by Labor Day. And what we have decided to do is to hopefully, all COVID disclaimers included here, if the situation allows, open the indoor pool up for lap swimming by reservation and some indoor aquatic programming that you have to sign up for in advance. And we're able to do that in a way that encourages social distancing, has a limited number of people in the pool at any given time. So really using some of the same kind of philosophies that we're using for our on-land classes. And then our goal is to open up Open Swim in October. So that's assuming that COVID cases are going the right direction. We're getting the clearance to do so. But a number of our neighboring communities have open swim opportunities right now in their indoor pools. And so that's something we're definitely going to want to explore for us. I think a big question that comes from that is what does that mean for memberships to the community center? Because we had originally said that charter memberships would begin on Labor Day when the indoor pool was open. And so we have kind of put together a happy medium for that, where charter memberships will be extended through October 4th. So that will be the last day that you'll be able to purchase your charter membership, and then those will begin October 5th. So the official year calendar for charter memberships will be October 5th, 2020 through October 4th, 2021. And that's in line with how our membership cycle renews on a monthly basis in our RecTrack software, which is why it's not the first of the month. And then we'll continue to do one more month of half-price monthly memberships for the month of September. And then in October, everything will go back to full price. That's the plan now. That's what we're putting out. You know, at some point, we're going to have a facility that's wide open, and it's going to be up to everyone in their own risk analysis about whether they choose to use it. But we have really, I think Anna's team has done a great job putting COVID precautions in place, and we've posted a full summary of what those are on our website right now. So you can get on there. People who are coming to the building can understand the clean piles and the dirty piles and the every other treadmill and the limited number of people in a class and all of that. But that's the plan moving forward, and I would be happy to answer any questions that anybody has about that.
Any questions?
This is Jason. I have one question.
Mhm.
I brought my soft opening cookie home, and my wife needs to know where it came from.
Okay. I don't know that off the top of my head, but I will ask Jenna for you.
I've got maybe not a question too much about that, but Mr. England, we haven't had this discussion. Are we going to be resuming our Zoom encounters with the council meetings going forward for a while longer? Do we know?
We have not decided that. We're kind of still just watching what's going on from a state standpoint to bring people back and then have to send everybody home. But we will make a decision on that and let the council know here shortly.
Okay, thank you. Is there any, do you have anything further, Meredith?
No.
Do we have any new business this evening, Mr. Engel?
No, sir. Staff does not.
Okay, well, then that's that magic time of the meeting where I'll accept the motion to adjourn if someone would like to make it. Bob, go right ahead. You're the president.
I'd make a motion that we adjourn, Mayor. This is Bob.
And this is Chris, and I'll second that.
Motion made and seconded. Madam Clerk, do your thing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Motion
See you all.